Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So this past Friday, Rihanna released a couple of new products on her Fenty beauty line, and today I'm going to be playing with the Pro Filt'R Instant Retouch Concealer. I picked it up yesterday from Sephora, and I have it here to show you today, and I got the shade 160, and I'm going to talk about shade matching and all of that to how to find your shade, especially considering if you've tried the foundation before. So we'll get into all of that in today's video. You know that I'm a big fan of the foundation already. I really love that it's a semi-matte foundation because I'm not someone who favors high coverage foundations. I really like it to be much more light and natural, and I found the Fenty one to be the perfect thing for me. So I was very interested to try out the concealer, so that is what we are going to be doing today. So I went to the Sephora in Union Square yesterday to pick this up. Here is the box that it came in, and the shade, color, and number are at the top. I opened it from the bottom because I did play with this a little yesterday to kind of get a feel for it before I came on and spoke to you guys about it. And here is what it looks like. It is so cute. It honestly kind of reminds me just of like the mini version of the foundation. So as you can see, these two shades are super similar, but I'm going to talk to you about why I got a different shade for the concealer than I have for the foundation. When I was in Sephora yesterday, good on you Sephora, you had a girl stationed right next to those concealers because you knew people were going to be asking about them. I was telling the girl that I have the shade 170 in the foundation and asking what kind of shade I should do for the concealer, like if the shade numbers were going to be the same. She told me that when Fenty was developing the product, they kind of went ahead and did that thinking for you. So if you want to buy your exact same shade number that you have for the foundation, you can do that for the concealer, and it should be a good match because they've already slightly lightened each color of the concealer based on the foundation shade so that you can pick the same one if you want to. However, she said if you prefer your concealer to be more for brightening purposes and kind of add a little bit more dimension to your look rather than having it all kind of be one matte finish and color, that you could go up or down a shade depending on what you were looking for. After hearing that, I did decide to go down a shade, so I have the concealer here in the shade 160. So that's one shade lighter than I wear the foundation in. Again, in Sephora, you're able to test out all of these products so you can swatch them. I ended up swatching both 160 and 170, and I kind of just was feeling 160, so that's what I ended up deciding to go for. But you should totally go into your local Sephora and test it out for yourself if you'd like. This shade 160 is for light skin with cool peach undertones, which my skin doesn't have too many peach undertones in it, but I think this will help warmth and brighten when I apply it onto my face. And then the shade 170 I have for the foundation is for light skin with cool undertones, which is more my complexion. So yeah, I'm very excited to put this on for you. Just to run you through what is already on my face, I went in with the Pixi Rose Flash Bomb. This is a primer that I've really been enjoying, and then I applied the Glossier Skin Tint in the shade Medium. I didn't actually want to put the Fenty foundation on my face for purposes of this video because since this is a semi-matte foundation and since I feel like that's more on the heavier side of coverage for me, I actually don't feel like I need the concealer when I'm wearing the foundation. So I decided to test it out with the Glossier Skin Tint instead. I think this will just provide a little bit of contrast so you guys can actually see the difference and see the effect that this has on the skin. Let's go ahead and take a look at the applicator. So as you can see, it is basically a flat top applicator, and it is very simple. You can kind of just dip in to pick up the product and then draw directly on your face. I'm coming in a little bit closer so you guys can take a look at my face without concealer. I think as you can see, I've got a little bit of under eye circles. That's kind of always a concern of mine, to be covering those up. And I've also got a couple of spots and breakouts around my mouth and chin area. Again, that's generally the spot where I break out the most. So I'm going to be applying this around the under eye area and on top of some of the spots that I would like to cover up. And to blend it in, I'm going to be using my Real Techniques beauty sponge. I actually watched another YouTuber do a product review where she tried half of it blended in with a sponge and half of it with a brush. I really never apply concealer using a brush, but if that's something that you like to do, you could totally try both options and see what works better for you. I just tend to like the finish that the kind of beauty sponge leaves because it looks a little bit more glowy and bouncy, which is why you use the sponge. So it's totally up to you, totally your preference of how you'd like to apply it, but let's go ahead and blend it in. I do think I need a little more in some places because, again, I'm using such a lightweight foundation coverage that I think this is one of those cases where I would amp up the concealer. So I'm gonna apply a little more and blend it in. So here is what the product looks like blended in. First impressions looking at it on camera, it definitely has a bit more of a dewy coverage to it rather than a matte coverage. As you can see under my eyes especially, it's very shiny in a sense. I think this is actually awesome if this is the look you're going for, because the only other really dewy concealer that I've tried is the Glossier Stretch Concealer, and it's just very wet in my opinion, and that's definitely a product that I turn to way more in the summer than I do during the winter. But this is a nice way to still kind of have that full coverage, but also have it be a little bit more dewy, a little less matte. The other concealer that I use on the regular is the Tarte Shape Tape Concealer. You guys know how I feel about this one. It is one of my all-time favorites, if not my all-time favorite. And that one definitely has more of a matte coverage. But if you'd like to tone this down, if it's a little bit too dewy for you, you can always put some powder on it. So I'm gonna do that now using the Laura Mercier translucent powder, and I will apply it with the Real Techniques Beauty Sponge. The great thing about using powder to set concealer is that you don't need a ton of it. A little bit kind of goes a long way. So you can kind of just apply it to the spots that you think could tone down a little. Okay, so I've just finished putting the powder on top of the concealer that I applied, and I'm actually in love with the finish of it. I think that that is a brilliant combination. It's always awesome when a product is super versatile, so you have options. So if you're feeling that more dewy look, you can use it on its own, and if you want it to be a little bit more matte and finished off, you can always just add a powder on top of it. So even though I was using the Laura Mercier powder, I did just want to mention that in addition to launching new shades of concealer, which by the way, there are 50 of them, so definitely go in stores to get your shade match. I didn't even know that I had been wearing the wrong shade of foundation, and I have many more options than a woman of color does, so it's definitely worth going in to swatch your different shades. But anyway, in addition to launching these 50 shades of concealer, they also just launched 8 shades of translucent powder, so if you're looking to buy them together, both from Fenty Beauty, you can do that as well. I didn't end up purchasing the powder because I do have the Laura Mercier powder and I also have Glossier's powder, so I feel pretty stocked up right now on my powder options, but that's definitely something you could consider. I'll put a link to the powder down below in the description box in case you'd like to go read more about it, and of course I'll be linking the concealer, foundation, and matchsticks that I mentioned in this video as well. And that just about wraps up my review. I am definitely a fan of the concealer. I am not surprised that I enjoyed this one at all because of how much I love the foundation. I will definitely be using this a lot more in the coming weeks and reaching for it. I would definitely also call this a semi-matte product similarly to the foundation, and what's great about it is you can kind of build it up a little more. You can add on another layer as you saw I did earlier, and you can also put powder on top to set it, or you can kind of just use it and have it have that more dewy look to it. So if you don't have a concealer that you love right now, I would definitely recommend giving this one a try. As I mentioned, it's really versatile unlike a lot of concealers, so you can kind of do what you want with it, which is always great. And it was retailed for $28, which I think is pretty good for a concealer. Just for reference, the Tarte Shape Tape is normally $27, so pretty similar price range. Props again to Rihanna for taking the time to release her products and not doing them all at once, because I know a lot of thought goes into this, and I'm really glad to hear that she also has expanded the shade range even more than she already has. Have you guys tried this yet? Are you thinking about trying it? Tell me all of your thoughts in the comments down below, and as always, if you have any requests for other products you want me to review or test out, I'm always open to hearing what you'd like me to be doing, so please leave that down in the comments below, and give this video a thumbs up if you found it useful or helpful, or if you just liked hearing me talk about makeup. Which is totally a valid reason to like a video, by the way. If you're not already, I would love to have you as a subscriber. I just hit my first 1,000 subscribers, and I know that's actually not a ton in the grand scheme of things, but I can't tell you how much it means to me. If you've ever watched one of my videos, or given them a thumbs up, or sent it to your friend, that's just the coolest thing ever, and I'm so appreciative. So if you are new here, I would love to have you join my little online community. That's all from me, you guys. Thank you again so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video on Friday. Bye!